when you're trying to understand anything, you are dealing with three levels of questions. The most basic questions are what questions, and they entail understanding the basic structure, framework of what you're trying to understand. You can use it for understanding the Shrishti or creation, Sagun Brahman, and you can use it by that same principle for understanding anything in life, any situation. But first, you have to understand what are the ingredients, what questions can also be broken down into questions of space and time, because for activity to unfold, there has to be a location, aka space, earth, and there has to be a coordinate of time, which is when the clock starts ticking. So, earth is the location, and the portion of time when you see that activity unfold is constituting the time. So, when there is interaction of space with time, activity happens. So, what questions understand the basic cardinal ingredients that interact to create activity? Now, a derivative of what is things like when, because they represent time axis, and where, because they represent space axis. You can also have individuals who are interacting with space and time to create activity, and they are the who activity, which, if you want to use another term, or whom. So, whom, who, which, where, and when are all derivatives of W what. The second level of understanding is the how level. In the how, we ask how do these things participate, interact with each other to create activity. So, how is the second level of understanding? But unless you have completely understood the ingredients of what and its derivatives, the time and space and the person or in thing that does it, that is where, when, who, whom, which, you will not be able to fully grasp how. So, how just shows how they interact and what are the rules that govern. In case of Shrishti, there is Kal and Desh, which is the time and the space, which create the what, but Mahabhuts, which create the what, and then to certain extent there is Manas Buddhi Ahamkar, which create the what. But for the what to interact with each other, they will create some sort of activity. And that activity is how. How does it unfold? How does the earth form? How does time begin? All these questions are how questions, and they require interaction of two or more of the what ingredients. So, how helps you understand the modus operandi, the way the things will work. In Sagun Brahman, it is the understanding of the gunas and the gunatit, the sattva, rajas, and tamas. What are the characteristics? Here it becomes a what question again, because you are trying to understand the any question can be framed using how or what or why, but the answer is that they are basic how questions or questions of interaction. So sattva, rajas, and tamas, they will interact based on the rules of the prakriti to create activity or karma. And then the last level is why. Why do you do? Once you have understood the ingredients, once you have understood the interaction of the ingredients to create activity or karma, the last wisdom level of question is why. Why do all this? So, in life, if you're trying to understand any technology, any new concept, first embrace what. Get all the information or data. I call it data because they are just raw ingredients. Once you have understood the data points, then the second level you have to understand the interaction of the data points, which is called information. Information is nothing but answering the questions of how, because mastery of the what ingredients is absolutely essential to understand the interaction between those two components. So that is why it is data that is transformed into information, and then the existential why, which you can call intelligence. The highest level, the creative thinking. Most men will rather die than think. Many do. And that is the level where the meditation, that is the level where you have these critical thinkers, the entrepreneurs, the scientists, the big sages are born in the realm of Brahma, creation of why. But understanding of how level and what level is absolutely critical to question why and answer why. Otherwise, you will never get to why questions. And for that same reason, all the people who live in solitude, who shun the samsara, who shun the attractions of samsara, who have no vairagya is something intrinsic. You can try to develop it, but it will fail multiple times. It comes to you when it comes to you. You can work towards it, but it will spontaneously sprout inside you at certain point in time. So that is the why question. So the why question is the question of karma bandhan in case of Sagun Brahman creation. So let's understand the what questions in Prakriti. When there is genesis of Prakriti, the Sagun Brahman of the Prakriti, then we have started to interact the Mahabhuts with the subtle Mahabhuts, which are not seen. Bhumi rapu nallo vayu kham mano buddhi revcha ahankaritta me bhinna prakriti rasdha. The Prakriti is composed of those 8 components: fire, earth, air, water, ether, manas, buddhi, ahamkar. Ahamkar is the subtlest and most profound of the what ingredients. Now they will interact with each other only when there is participation from soul. Without soul, all these things, a patthar cannot have ahamkara. Because the sentience is there, but the level of sentience is low. The level of sentience is high when there is a soul particle. Otherwise, they will dissolute into Mahaprana, the extreme potentiality to manifest when they are not manifesting. Otherwise, they are manifest as Mahabhut. So, that is the component of the Prakriti. And then they will interact when the soul enters, and when they interact between themselves and between one soul particle and another, then they create activity or karma bandhan based on the quality of activities and the interception or perception of performed activities on the other individual, how the other person felt based on their manas buddhi ahamkar. So that creates your karma bandhan. Now the karma bandhan has to be destroyed, burnt, because you need another life to end all that activity. Because unless you end, there is no return back to the avyakt. Avyakta dini bhutani, vyakta madhyani bharata, avyakta nidhananye, tatra ka paridevana. Everything begins as avyakt, turns vyakt, which is this questions of what, how, why, and then again it dissolves into avyakt. But for it to dissolve into avyakt, the residual karma bandhan, and hopefully not incrementally increasing karma bandhan, because that gives you a lot of homework to complete, needs to be burned out totally. Nothing more needs to be left there. Otherwise, these 3 components, the manas, buddhi, ahamkar, they will keep generating using the biological body more and more karma, and the game will continue. The reincarnation games will continue. Even if they are of a high quality, after a while, there will be ennui, boredom, dissatisfaction, detachment from objects of sensual gratification. Because the indriyas, they are programmed to be attaching to the Vishaya. Objects of sensual gratification, Vishaya, will like magnets attract the Indriyas. And Indriyas is what you are born with. So you have to demagnetize. You have to turn it it should not be ferromagnetic anymore. It should not be attracted to the magnets of the Vishayas. So that is the work you have to put in using the various three yog, panch pratyahar, using the various austerities, using the yog, as we talked about dhyan yog, nishkam yog, seva they call it, and the bhakti yog. Then you get into gyan yog. So you see how gyan or knowledge is finally born, but first you have to collect the data, transmute it into information, and when the information turns into intelligence or the highest, clearest, cleanest, farthest form of buddhi, you have knowledge. And that knowledge is what is wisdom. So wisdom is the ability to apply the knowledge. I would say data plus information form the lower levels, which we call gyan. But gyan ko jo you cannot apply, that is the missing segment that does not bring you wisdom. Once you have wisdom, you have perfect application of first of all, you have perfect understanding, the what questions, and application, the how questions, to transmute the info into intelligence. Data begets information, information begets intelligence. Data plus information to me is knowledge, and once you can appropriately apply the knowledge, because the ego is not creating malware and misinterpretation and misconstruing the results, then we have intelligence. The buddhi is able to work beautifully. And when the buddhi works beautifully, it becomes Brahma. It becomes the ultimate creator. All of us have a little bit of creator lying in us. All of us. Now, based on the power, what modality of wheel we are spinning, the sattvic wheel, the rasic wheel, or the tamasic wheel, we will have different manifestations of creation. When there is nothing higher left to create or ability to create, we will fall towards creating the lower means. And there's nothing derogatory about it. It's a form of creation that the whole world does, and that's how the Sagun Brahman relies on the Atmans to create new Jivatmas through the forces of Ahar, Nidra, Bhay, Maithun, just repeatedly cycling one day after another. You are initiating new Atmas as Jivatmas or Bhutatmas, because now they are wearing the coat of Mahabhut, and then they come out as biological bodies. Now they also entertain into Ahar, Nidra, Bhay, Maithun. They also go into the forces of feeding, fear, Rag, Dvesh, and then sleep and sex, because those four are the primordial forces that occur to create the four pillars of dharma, arth, kam, moksha. What is expected of you, what you desire, the prosperity that is needed to bring about what is expected and desired, and when there is nothing expected of you and nothing you expect or desire, then you go into moksha. But unless you will solve the lower problems, the higher problems will not happen. And mind you, this is not just for understanding the Sagun Brahman. This is for understanding any question in life, any scientific question, any relationship questions. It's the genesis of first principles. First principles asks you to understand the basic ingredients. Because once you identify the basic ingredients, like we say the 5 stages of quitting smoking, ask, assist, assess, all those. So first you have to identify the problem. The moment you do not identify the problem and try to solve it, you will fail miserably. So first is to ask, is there a problem? And then you have to ask, assist, assess, and then there is, I think, you kind of act on it. Just like there is 5 stages of pre-contemplate, contemplate, and so forth. But basic idea is that you have to get the what right. If you don't get the what right, the how will not be known. And if you don't know the what and the how, you will never get to why. You will have so much tamas that you will not even ask the why questions. The why existential questions can only be asked once you have solved the lower level questions. And that's what monks do. That's what the siddhas do. That's what the entrepreneurs do when they're trying to solve a question. And that brings me to the other part, that when you are in very much a deep state. And I only know three deep states. I'm sure there are more states, but based on my intelligence, knowledge, and wisdom partial, which I have, I know only of three states, which are deep states where there's total forgetfulness, total disregard of the lower axis, the axis of what and how. These three states are states where a Jivatma, Bhutatma, a living biological body, totally forgets where he is and what he is and when he is. Because those are the only three things that are there. The where is the space, the when is the time, and who or what he is the interaction of space and time to create karma by the individual or those reference points, which is the Jivatma or Bhutatma. But the ability to forget these reference frames while living in the matrix of Maya is what imparts your ability to understand why. So those three states are states of dreamless sleep, which all of us almost experience. Not dream sleep. Dream sleep is your recycling of the subconscious thoughts. So dreamless sleep. The second are states of flow. The states of flow are states where you're so engrossed, you're so much into a certain idea, you're so focused that you totally lose understanding of space and time. For a lot of kids, this happens while playing video games. And for a lot of inert people, it is kind of a state of deep sleep. And for a lot of aware people, it is a state of meditation. But I like to distinguish all these three as states. You can call it derivatives of flow, but basically these are states where there's total loss of space and time. And when there's total loss of space, time, and activity, you get nishkam karma. And that is why you do not have boredom. Because when you have boredom, you will create lower levels of Brahma, lower levels of activity, procreation, or wasting your sexual energies, not letting the energy rise through the central channel of Sushumna. So those are the problems of boredom. And boredom is the nemesis of liberation. I have told you dharma, arth, kam, moksha are the four pillars, but dharma, arth and kam have to be fulfilled. What is arth? Arth is your ability to have money, transfer of wealth, ability to create more dharma and the kama. But at some point, there are no expectations left of you and there's nothing you desire. And that might be a slow process because you came into this earth through multiple millions of years. So you won't be living suddenly, but you have to work towards it. And it happens spontaneously. That is why things will find their destination. Even if they don't have the roadmap or the GPS, they will eventually find a destination. सब जन मुझी से पाते हैं, फिर लौट मुझी में आते हैं. You start from a certain point and you go around as many detours as you take, but you will end up back to where you started. So my friends, in short, the three states of flow are dreamless sleep, any activity where you're intensely focused, or there is deep state of meditation, like that happens from the heightened sattva. And all these three states are nemesis of boredom. They create nishkam karma. So we are not accruing any more karma, and the karma bandhan will slowly disappear. That will help the karma bandhan to slowly disappear, dissipate, destroyed from the soul. So the Karan Sharir has no more Karan left to be born again. And when there is no cause left, there are no consequences, there is no interaction, there is no consequences. But understand this three question matrix of what, which is to identify the ingredients, because identification ego is the last stage of Prakriti, the most subtlest form of Prakriti, because it helps you distinguish one from the other. It is based on vibhajan or division, which is the characteristic of Rajas. I am different from you, you are different from someone else. Prithak tu yaj jnanam. Everything is distinguished from one another. That characteristic is the understanding of the participants or what. Now, how they interact with each other creates the how or activity, And the activity, the way it sticks to the soul, because all those 8 ingredients of Mahabhut, or I should say Prakriti, are basically interacting with other modalities of Prakriti, Jivatma versus Jivatma. And that activity is what creates karma, and that karma sticks with the soul for the further lives to create karmabandhan. But once you have totally dissipated the need for more activities, because there is no more expectations from you and you have no more desires, the death of desire is birth of liberation, with the understanding that there are no more expectations out of you. So that is what gets you from Nishkam Karm Yog into Dhyan Yog. That is what gets you from the society to solitude. Nothing wrong. Working in society is the preliminary stage. Aru rukshir munor yogam karm karan muchyate yoga ruddhase tasav shama karan muchyate. The person who is a new novice, he should start with selfless service, seva. And once he has mastered that nishkam karma, he is gradually graduated into Ramana Maharishi's Dhyan Yoga. And all the profound beings have done deep meditation in caves, be it our Neem Karoli Baba, Haidakan Baba, or Ramana Maharishi. All of them have gone into deep meditation for years, because that is the highest state of flow for a sattvic being. And then they get enlightened and they still live their life here, because there is no more karmabandha, they don't need to come back. And a lot of times they might stay in the higher lokas as distinct beings. So if you call them hello, hello, they will respond to you if you have intense desire. But a lot of times they might just coalesce back into the ocean of supreme consciousness of Paramatma. So there is no distinction between that soul and the Paramatma, because it has merged back into the Paramatma. So it's like how all of us here in this world have evaporated from the Paramatma to form distinct clouds. Now once we will be able to break all the coalescence with the Mahabhuts, Manas Buddhi Ahamkar, we will be able to come back as raindrops, condense, and that will fall back into the ocean. So there is no more left of us. And while this unfolding is going on, we are forming clouds that represents the Sagun portion. The moment you merge back into the ocean, you become the Avyak or the Nirgun Brahman. So understand the 3 frameworks of how, what, why, because you'll never get to why if you don't understand the how and the what. And understand the 3 states of flow, which are derivatives of flow: dreamless sleep, all activities of heightened focus activity, and the highest of that is meditation. Because when you don't have these 3 heightened activities, you will engage in lower Brahma activities, procreation, or sometimes just engaging in activities of desire without fulfilling your expectations. And that is why the Dharma, Arth, Kam will continue cycling, and you will never get to moksha. The Karan Shri will never be able to get away from the Karan or the causes, the Karma Bandhan. And hence, you'll keep cycling. I shouldn't say you keep cycling, keep suspended as clouds. How miserable it is to be suspended as clouds, never budge back into the ocean from where you originated. Jai Shri Ram.